welcome to the first ever climate talk powered by Carbony. A very warm welcome to our first guest ever, Xavier Dommange from Cœur et Canopée.
Nice to
Welcome,
meet you,
Xavier.
Matthias.
Nice to
Hello.
meet you. We're really happy to have you here as our guest. And yeah, I would always like to start off with a short introduction. So now is your time to talk to the world. Say who you
Wow.
are.
Hello, world. Hope you're doing fine and better. My name is Xavier Dommange. I was made an engineer, an industrial engineer with the skill to take an idea and to develop it into a project, an activity, or a company. And after working for a while in large groups on the topics linked with living materials like microalgae, like biomass, I eventually decided to set up my own company to set urban microforests according to the Miyawaki method, which we will certainly talk deeper now.
This is when I did some research on you on LinkedIn,
Oh,
I saw, okay, he's coming from an engineering background. He worked with some really big players. So what happened on the way? I'm really curious. How did a person who is in the engineering world with the big companies, saying at some point, okay, I want to start my own project in the, let's say, environmental sphere.
mm-hmm.
But I had the feeling there's some story in there, and I would be interested.
Sure. Well, the first point is why. First, why did I choose to go to engineer? I chose this option because at that time I was in my 20s. I thought that a little progress in aerospatial energy or biotech would mean a lot to many people and would really be a significant contribution to the world, right? So on this basis, I invested in myself into engineering. So I've worked in all three fields that I quoted for different amount of time. And then I worked for Total about the energy topic. And I included in this topic also the living. Like Total produces oil. I worked on the research on how to produce oil from microalgae, which is a living being. Because I had the intuition somehow that the living is so fascinating. It's so efficient. It's what we are. So whatever big change would happen would certainly be done with the living if it is meant to be for long term. So I worked with Total a number of years about new energies. Then I shifted to work for Airbus, also on new energies. Like Airbus needed to know what was a good fuel to be made, and they asked some guy to carry on the business nursery, like a set of projects to assess different kind of biofuels. So again, it was still in line with my own belief. And then I left for a sabbatical for 1 year and a half. Like I liked my projects, but it was a bit slow in progress because the company was slowly starting to look more and more at electrical airplane, which was a different field. So I said, okay, maybe now is a good time to go for a break. So I went on a break. It was a 12-year trip planned as follow, like 1 month in a city exploring one topic through work. And I did that in 12 cities of the world. And it was super fascinating and interesting. I won't detail here, but just know that by the end of this trip, I had the conviction that now the changes that I wanted to make happen were not connected with technology, but it was more something linked with human. And with this in mind, I felt like Airbus was not as meaningful to me as it used to be before. So I left the group when I came back from my sabbatical, and I started an activity as advising small companies which were oriented towards sustainability, how to make their choice, how to make their business development, how to recruit, and so on. It was very interesting, but a bit frustrating too, because I never had my own topic. So in the end, I chose to focus on two topics with this activity. One was supporting an association for integration of young people who are far away from employment and educational system. And the other one was a project of my own, which was around a new way to create um, freshness islands inside cities, which was based on a method set up by a Japanese man out of the name of Akira Miyawaki. And this topic was the connection of my fascination for the living, my attraction to sustainability, and my desire to increase my number of contacts with people. Because as I will explain later, like in the Miyawaki method, you really work with forest and with people, which is super important.
Yes. I mean, I could see the passion of on the post that you did. You always have this focus there. You see the planting, you see the environment, the environmental is the main topic, but you're always there interacting with human beings. And a lot of times with children, and it has this really, you seem to have this love for educating the people on the topic and showing them what is the impact of their activities, and then they can have a positive impact with what you are doing. And it's not only your business alone, but it's always in connection with others. So
yeah, usually people come to me because they want to plant trees, and the good thing is that they get much more because like they don't realize that because they will plant the trees themselves, they will also get involved into an experience, a life experience, which is not ordinary actually. And the fact of making something together, which is purposeful, which is joyful, is really an out of ordinary time, which I really enjoy. When people lower their inside barriers, where they become super open, where they enjoy doing stuff with unknown people, because they all know that what gathers them is like the future of the earth, and they enjoy it. So
yeah.
it's yeah,
It's somehow that you link this topic, which is normally experienced through media, very negatively. Let's say, the environment is fucked up, everything is going downwards from here on. But actually, you're doing a great contribution by linking the topic to some positive experiences and understanding. Okay, this is also a world, and I can have an impact onto it, and I also
totally,
get something from it. It's not just. I think it's.
totally. Like one of the approach point for starting this company was like, okay, see, climate change is something global, and we sort of get a kind of a feeling of being not able to do anything around it. And I really wanted to find something which could demonstrate quickly that this thought is wrong. Like we can actually do something about it. I'm not saying we can reverse everything which has been done. I just don't know, honestly, if it's true or not. Maybe it is, I don't know. But what I know is that you can locally make things that are positive. And this is really like this experience that we want to offer to people through this simple day of plantations. We will have done all the preparation works ahead, and people will come and plant on one day. And it won't be that easy, right? They will have to sweat a bit, as this is also the purpose, but it's not very hard. And by the end of the day, they will realize that within this day, they made something which will bring environmental benefits and well-being benefits for years. And this is really this gives a great feelings of, I don't know, like self-gratification for once, but also gratitude, because most of the work will be done by trees and we've done the work together. So it's an opportunity to acknowledge our common participation to something which is bigger than us. And that is just provoking the enthusiasm that we're looking for.
I can imagine that this is a very nice experience for the people, and also it connects us to what makes us human in the end, to give back and to understand that we are part of a bigger community, or of a bigger, let's say, we are also part of this environment and of this world. And yeah, I can see the connection. Because you covered this topic now, can you explain, like very briefly for the audience,
Mhm.
what is exactly your project or your company that you're doing, and what it has to do with Mr. Miyawaki?
Sure. So, so I'll start by telling you that we work usually with cities. On the one hand, cities who want to maintain the viability of their areas. We also work with companies who are looking for some way to invest inside the transition and to make practical and concrete action around transition. And we also work with universities and campuses who want to improve the life quality and to make sure the campus can maintain viable. And so the way we work with these people is like we set together on their land, we set some microforests, which means micro means that the forest might be between 100 square meters to up to 3,000 square meters. And this microforest will be planted as Miyawaki forest. It means that we will apply this method, which consists in looking at what nature would do if we were not here, and then going in the same direction, the one shown by nature, but because we help it, we help nature a little bit with our tools, then we can go faster in her direction.
Okay.
So usually there is some trouble when you say you want to do things faster, but there it's a very soft and very understandable process where we just take the plants that will be the one that nature would set within 300 years. We just take them and we put them right away today. And as an exchange for this gain of time, we will take care of these plants a little longer than usual.
Okay. So
Is it clear?
this is no geoengineering, or
No.
no
This is biomimicry. Biomimicry,
biomimicry?
yeah. You look at this biomimicry approach needs that when you have an issue, instead of engineering something, you will observe nature, look how it has resolved the same problem as you, and duplicate the approach, which often demonstrates to be the most efficient.
And is the problem human being? What is the problem?
Oh, wow. Wow. We're shifting. No, I mean, I don't think we should talk of problem, especially not about human beings, since I'm one of them and I love what we are. We certainly need to take into consideration the other beings around us and to have a development which is more synchronized with these other beings, and have something which is more integrated, which means also being a bit less self-centered.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think with this in mind, we can really become part, I mean, as you said, part of nature again. I mean,
This is also our approach at Carbony. We understand that humanity has reached a certain level of development, which includes, and also they only reached there because they exploited nature to a certain extent. For example, if you look at those companies, those huge companies that you mentioned before, they are kind of having a negative impact on environment, but on the same hand, humanity profits a lot from them, and has a certain level of status or how they can live and they enjoy it. And our approach is, how can we keep this level, but by also bringing those companies, for example, on board, that they can give their contribution and improve things. Like you said before, we can never know if it's already too late or if we can really make a difference. But if we don't try it at all, yeah, then we're kind of doomed already. So it's better to find some some approaches, or like you did, start your company, or like us, you know, and bring those things to the people and make it kind of an experience, or make it easier for them to give a contribution. Because if we make this happening, and a lot of people kind of offer it like this, then we can make a huge difference in the end. And this is kind of the idea, and this is, I also think, how we found you, you know, because we're always on the search for such kind of projects, because in the end there needs to be the people who really do something in the field, to plant the trees, or, you know, use those other technologies that are there.
Mm. Yeah. About the companies, like we have to understand also that the world we're living in is complex, and like those within those companies you quoted, there are many people who try to do their best to improve the things, and those companies also would not exist if we were not consuming what they propose. So it's you know, so this is why as a person I have my opinions.
Sure.
As a company, like we want to propose every company who thinks it's a good way to approach transition to plant trees, and to plant trees in a way that the trees will become autonomous, which is the purpose of Miyawaki method, and who also want to have an impact on their territory, not only through the works they propose, but and their activity, but through a transition action, and who also want to have their employees and have people around the territory to get involved. We propose them something which is quite easy to understand, and which we deeply think is good. And this is really more than trying to express my opinions about what other people do. This is simply the best way I can advocate for what I'm doing. That as you said, I came from other positions before, and if I started to do these activities because I really think it's good. This is why I dedicate my time to it, and this is how I think we can invite those companies, because we believe it's good. We can invite them to join us, and any other people who want to do so.
When you say, okay, you're in the field and it's so fulfilling, I can completely get it, and it's also transferring when you talk. But if I ask you now, as a businessman who sees the bigger picture, where are you trying to move your company? So what is the goals? What do you want to achieve? Like, what are the next steps to take? Because I can see you're already doing those things. Where are you moving?
There are different time scales to your questions. The goal I like is I'd like to reach is to make as many people as possible experience this planting, and then feel the desire, experience the capacity to do proactively something for the transition, and stimulate within themselves their desire to start something, to become an entrepreneur, not necessarily in the business way, but as a human. Give them desire to live. I know it sounds a bit grand. I apologize, but it's really like when you do something like this, it really makes you realize how many things you can do. And then when you have completed, you want to do another one. Yeah. Maybe not another Miyawaki forest, but do stuff and make things appear in this world. So yeah, this will be the long-term objective. Now, as a shorter term at least, we want to work with as many different people as we can, as many different entities, just because there is a huge variety of people with different mindset, different objectives, and we are just curious to work with them. And something which we would really enjoy, there are two projects now. One will be to be given a territory. Given is not the word. To be given the responsibility of the transition for a territory. It might be a city and a region, a country would be amazing. And to try to, given all the constraints for the activities of this area, to make the development plan for those microforests, which can really be a great support for the livability of territories. Another project would be to go spread the Miyawaki method in Eastern Europe. We are very much based now in Western, and it's going fine. We would love to extend and to transfer some knowledge of setting Miyawaki forest as well as the experience. And these are really two projects in the short midterm that we'd like to make happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with my two colleagues, you know, Rumen and Zeland, as they're coming from Bulgaria, maybe there's some context they can build up for you.
It's amazing.
Starting in Bulgaria, because of course there's also a historic reason for maybe that in Eastern Europe those kind of topics are not so well established yet. At least when I'm in Bulgaria, I can see that the people themselves, they have a big love for nature, but sometimes the infrastructure or the money is still missing because of the communist past. And anyhow, things are developing there. And what I grasp from your approach is that people are really important. People who want to make those experiences, and I'm 100% sure that they are there.
That's you couldn't be righter. You're exactly to the point. So the thing is, like, during my sabbatical year, as I told you, like, I was struck by something, which was the power of demonstration. Like, there are many entrepreneurs among us. We are all basically, but we are all enlightened by something specific. And some people are really triggered when they see the thing happening under their very eyes. So I believe that going in some places, gathering people to make one of these forests, showing them how to do, going with them in forest to show what is a real forest, what is a planted one, making them feel the difference, and then setting a forest with them, that would be a real way to trigger some sparks. And I'm certain some people would embark. Just to shifting a bit about why, to give you an aspect of why I think it's so much a good idea for the future, that when you set a Miyawaki forest, so you copy nature, and natural forests, they don't need water, they don't need maintenance, they don't need to be cared for, they can adapt. Well, all those qualities are the same. We managed to make happen again on our small pieces of Miyawaki forest. Those forests are size between 100 square meter, as I told you, to 3,000. It could be more even, but we try to keep it in this amount so that they can enter cities. And so you recreate within cities, thanks to this method, you recreate a little island of freshness, of biodiversity, which will support all the viability of your area, of shadow, of installation. So it's really full of benefits. And when people can see this, can understand it, can have a glimpse of how it will impact their lives, but also the lives of the kids, of the ancients, and improve their life quality and make it more long-term. Wow. Trust me, there's going to be some sparks.
That can incent a huge fire, for sure.
Would love to.
Why the cities? Because they are the main point for human living nowadays? Or how do you imagine, for example, a city of the future, a city that is living in coexistence with those Miyawaki trees? How do you imagine it?
I will answer to that through also your first question. Why in cities? Because cities are very mineral, lots of concrete, lots of stones, lots of material who are prone to accumulate heat. So during the hot days in summer, stones, for example, or macadam or asphalt, they will get heated by the sunlight. And not only will they get hot, but they will also store the heat in the underlayers. So when the sun is gone at night, and when it's all black, or dark, sorry, the stones of those materials will give back all the heat they have stored. And so the temperature will never be lower, which is what we call canicule. Maybe it's a Frenchization of the word, but canicule anyway. And so the Miyawaki forest, what they do is that when they're placed within cities, like they capture part of the sunlight and they spread shadow and freshness, which makes the city able to be warm when it's sunny and also to cool when night comes, which is so important for us. The way I see Miyawaki forest now and developing within cities for the future is like a density, like take it as you like, and on small areas, some little Miyawaki islands. 100 square meters is really small, right? It's the size of 8 parking space for 8 cars. You see, so it's really small. So within the buildings, like this little forest spreading and maintaining the coolness at summer and maintaining the biodiversity we need so much, even though sometimes people don't really make the connection between their own life and the presence and the existence of this biodiversity. So I would see a city with these green islands between the buildings, which would be relayed maybe by the plant of somebody's balcony, maybe a green roof, and maybe some photovoltaics also on top of some buildings within cities, right? Like the roofs is a largely underused space, so there is a lot to do there too. The Miyawaki forests are made on the ground, though. So I see a combination of solutions for cities, among which the Miyawaki forest islands can be a structural bone.
Where could I see those? Where did you already start projects? And would I notice, this is a Miyawaki forest or microforest, and vice or not? How, does it look different? I'm just asking stupid questions.
No, it's a very good question. It does not look very, I mean, if you don't know there is something specific there, you will just buy it and you say, oh, some trees. and which is good, right? Like
it should be a tree, yeah.
Yeah, we did not plan to have coconut trees in France or in Bulgaria or whatever. The purpose is to use the trees from the territory. So in France, we plant French trees, like I mean trees which are native from here. If we would set one, for example, in Bulgaria, as you suggested earlier, then we would have a careful look at what type of forest would develop precisely close to the place you want to plant a microforest, and we will duplicate this forest, taking into account that we want to duplicate the old forest, not the recent one. But so, yeah, if you would pass by, you would just see, oh, this piece of land is covered with tree and it seems super abundant, and oh my God, I can hear lots of birds, and oh, I'm feeling fresh here, but there is no water, no whatever. That's interesting. Okay, and you would just go your way. And this is precisely what we want people to feel. Like Miyawaki forests are not bound to have people look at them in mesmerizement, although they could, because it's really wonderful. But the objective is really to bring inside the cities the quality, the services that forest is able to give. Those services are like freshness, draining water, shadow, biodiversity, phonic installation, visual isolation, making the soils more stable, more alive, and having people just feel good because they breathe nice air and because they can have a wonderful thing in front of them. Simple yet wonderful.
Yeah, no, I mean those are the qualities in the end that human beings are searching for, and also in the big cities.
With some Miyawaki forest, you could, I mean, if we have this kind of combination of different solutions for the city of the future I mentioned, like Miyawaki forest, green rooftops, some plants on the balconies, like we could somehow maybe evade a lot of the ventilation systems we have, and the expensive and hard maintaining machines which can maintain coolness within buildings. So without a doubt, if we have this combination of solutions which are based on nature, which are very cheap and self-sustaining instead of our technology-oriented approach, then we could really like get rid of those things in a standard way.
When you say we, is this you? Is this your team? How many people are you? And also, how to get people to you? Can I just call you up and say, I'm a company, Xavier, come by, I want to get started now? Or
absolutely, you could totally do that. Here is my number. um, you can for sure like look for us on the internet at Cœur, www.coeurecanopée.com, but we will probably post in the end of the podcast. We have a website with some more information there about what we do. You can contact us through there. We are so for now based in France with extension abroad, so don't hesitate. Even if you're abroad, we'll be happy to see what's possible to do with you. We is Cœur et Canopée and a large gang of partners. They can be like tree growers, city work makers, laboratory for analysis, the consultant who support us with making our solution known, Humanity and Biodiversity, an association which we are partner with, which is certifying the level of biodiversity of our islands. So, well, if you ring a bell, you'll be super welcome. Just know you'll enter an ecosystem of companies who will be really happy to bring you to this enthusiastic solution for cities and for companies.
cool. I mean, we at Carbony, we're super happy to partner with you. And as you know, we're trying to bring, let's say, offsetting to the next level in a way that we have a very transparent way of approaching projects only in Europe. So cherry picking the best projects. And this is also how we came to partner up. But since I have you now here in the talk, and you have shown that you know both worlds pretty well, the business world, right? You work with really huge companies who are, in the end, let's say, always profit driven or financial driven. And now as a project developer who's really making some great impact. What kind of advice could you give to us if we want to bring, let's say, offsetting on the next level and make it really attractive for companies? What do you think does the companies need to see in order that they're willing to invest and say, here, I want to contribute something? Because, you know, in the end, we want to combine many projects around Europe and support them by connecting them with companies who are willing to invest in those projects and doing something for the environment. What do you think they need to hear? What as a convincing, let's say?
The best thing I think you can propose to these companies is to make carbon compensation for the things they cannot improve themselves. So the best way they could contribute would be to wonder about their purpose, to reassess it if necessary, and then if they come to you, it's because they want to improve their impact. So probably reviewing the objectives with a purpose will mean including more of transition-oriented worries. So by reviewing their objective in the light of transition, they might already find so many things to change within their own businesses, in the way they do, in the way they supply, in the way they prioritize things also. And then I believe that the compensation can be a very good option for what they will not be able to improve by working on their own activity. And so you you can really like put your activity in the light of their own improvements. That's all the trees that you are planting for carbon mitigation is a great effort, and it should go along with the work on their own activity, with the work on their own processes and own purpose to improve and in the end like become more virtuous and more long-term.
So you're saying there needs to be also the right mindset within those companies, saying, okay, there are things that we can prove within our processes, within our production, etc. And we should start there and see what can we improve to until to a level where we say, okay, there's something left that cannot be improved anymore. And for this now we can, bring, let's say, carbon offsetting into the game.
Most of the time, the right mindset is already inside companies, but it's not dominant, or it's not always like the consequences are not the priority number one. Not judging any company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, each company, complete story and very complex word. So, but you phrased it well. The only thing I would modify is, as you are improving your own process, you can also invest into smart compensation plans, knowing that the 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 carbon which is most efficiently compensate is the one you have not emitted as a start. And you know, we are really happy to partner with you. It was also a point because like we, as setting small islands of forest, we mitigate small amounts of carbon, and a big part of my talk as a company man is to say like yes, we will mitigate some carbon, but this is not for our company. This is not the main objective. We will also support biodiversity. We will also create the freshness where it's most needed inside cities. We'll also spark your people, which is what we think is most necessary.
I mean, this is also the way how we research projects that, okay, carbon offsetting or mitigation is only one part of a bigger story. And as you mentioned, biodiversity and also having an impact on a local environment for people is also part of this. It's super important that people understand. And yeah, I mean, when it comes to the companies, I also do believe that, I'm not one of those people who want to condemn only the companies, because, we all live in this game, and we are participating. And I do think that companies are not only bad and only want to exploit and profit. There are really a lot of smart people who are also happen to be human beings, and they also need to live on this world. So I think 100% there's an interest and already the correct mindset. It's just, how can we, for example, at Carbony, offer something that supports them also in the other topics that they need to keep in mind. For example, economic profit. Okay, because then it's much easier for them to listen to this mindset that is already there and say, okay, now I can follow this along, and it's also beneficial to my company on many other levels. Mm-hmm. Because if we offer this, we have a much greater chance to have a lot of contributions. And yeah, how do you see the role of Europe, and what can be done on a, let's say, transnational level? Because being in contact with a lot of companies and also with officials, let's say the EU has a lot of goals out there, 2030, etc., planting trees. What is your position on this? How can we cooperate on a transnational scale and create a kind of positive narrative around the whole of Europe or the whole of the European Union?
As you talk, I have in mind the great project of Mr. Francis Halley, who is a botanist, who is looking to recreate or to a very large space to make a new primary forest in Europe. So it will be between France and one of his neighborhood country. And they would make the same amount of land on each side of the border to create a transnational primary forest. This is a wonderful project. I really suggest anybody listening to have a look at Mr. Francis Halley, Halley, work and his association. This is an example of something which can be made and which could be like super emblematic as a transnational iconic project and meaningful. Now, as my answer to your question is that, so I'm French, and with all due love I have for France, I also have to recognize that we tend to always turn towards institution to find solutions to our daily problems, and this is really something which I noticed when I came back from America to France, and so I don't really know what is the best role that Europe could have, but I know what we should do. We should empower people to make them able not to turn to states to have the states make their solutions, but to give them the tools. And so I think the best thing that Europe could do, and is probably doing, forgive me, Europe, because I don't know all the great things you're doing already, but like is to spread the good solutions and the good practices. This would be really like a powerful, and it could work between citizens, it could work between companies, it could work between cities, and it's already happening. But maybe like the most, I think, the biggest huge that can come out of a group is not to become all the same, because interest comes from diversity, richness comes from diversity, but to share the thing we have tried in some territories which work well and which would be which would have a lot of interest in being transferred, adapted, adopted, and so on. So this is really how I think Europe could support, and maybe they already do it. So just like making the best practices well known.
So this would have led me to my last question. What would be your one advice for the world, to bring this topic forward?
Well, okay. So my advice to the world to
make those next steps necessary in this whole, let's say, I call it now, field of environmental projects, or let's say environmental activities that more and more enter also the world of business and enter the lives of the people in a larger scale that allows a lot to participate, and not sit on the sideline and just say, okay, we are doomed, or we cannot do anything, or someone will do something.
Yeah. So the thing, several things to me. The doom part. Each generation has had something on his own shelf to deal with, and I guess each of them felt, oh my God, we are so doomed. So all right, this time it also seems really very important, and I think it is. But okay, I think each generation has its own important stuff to deal with. And second thing is like, yes, it's important. It's also fun. It is also fun because it's a challenge we have to solve. And when do we feel the best? And when we have something to face, and when we overcome it together. So like, I think the first thing would be, so each generation has had something to face, and this is ours. Now, facing something important can also mean it's fun, and we'll find ourselves and other people on our way to do it. The third thing is certainly don't sit and wait for somebody to do it, because you would let them all the fun, and you want some fun you too. So enter the game, and then try. uh, get informed, try to see stuff you have not seen. And if you feel inside of you some interest, and if you feel there is something you are attracted to, well, follow it and take your neighbors with you, and take your company with you, and take your family with you, whatever, and go for it. Like, I mean, global change is a situation, and there is also a lot of fun in addressing it.
Yeah.
So let's go for it together.
I mean, I love this, you know, this approach that a problem is something that can be fun, and it can be fun to solve, because I think this is what defines us as humans, that we always had problems, and we faced them not because we thought, oh my God, this is going to kill us, because there's a problem, I want to solve it somehow. How can I develop something? And yeah, thanks a lot for this attitude. And
You're welcome.
I'm 100% sure that the listeners or the viewers will enjoy this. And I really hope now, after getting to know you, that sooner than later we can do something together, and we also get this experience that you were talking about in the beginning. I would really appreciate this.
With my great pleasure.
Okay, so as I know you have another appointment.
Thank you.